Hi, my name is Anne, and in this video I will be sharing with you how to make a lavender wreath. Starting with the basic tools that we need to make a wreath. A wreath frame. This is a willow wreath frame that is 9 inches, and is made of basically natural woven willow. You need some floral wire. This is for wrapping the flowers onto the wreath frame. Dried lavender. These have been naturally air dried, and they were grown and harvested here in Oregon. And you also want some snips, scissors, or garden clips. These are useful for cutting the stem shorter, so that as you're wrapping the flowers onto your wreath frame, you don't have these long stems that are sticking out. You want to shorten them as you go. So these are very handy. So those are the basic tools for making a wreath. Today, what I'm going to work on and show you is basically an asymmetrical wreath. It's a wreath that will go from one side and comes to this side. Traditional wreaths usually go all the way around the frame, but we're going to do a more modern version of that with something that's minimal and that showcases the design of this beautiful frame. So we're not going to hide it all behind the flowers. We're just going to do it halfway, and that way it would expose the frame as well as the flowers. And then at the end of the wreath, we're going to tie it with some raffia ribbon, which is this, to basically hide the stem ends. Okay, so to start with, we're going to have floral wire in one hand, okay, the frame in the other hand. And what I'm going to do, and this is so you can see how thin the wire is, what we're going to do is attach the wire onto the wreath frame. Okay, so we're just going to wrap it onto the frame a couple times. Okay, and you want to pull it taut as you're wrapping so that it doesn't come loose. And there you can see that I've just wrapped the wire onto the frame. And as I do that, I'm holding the paddle of wire in one hand, and the other hand I'm holding the frame. Okay, there you are. Okay, now that that's wrapped, we are going to grab a few stems of the lavender. Okay, here you are. And these are very nice long stems. So we don't need it to be that long. I usually cut it to about 2 to 3 inches. Okay. So about that much. Okay, and now I will be holding the bunch of lavender onto my frame. Okay, like so. And then I will continue wrapping. So I'm going to wrap around the frame over the flowers, like that. I'll turn it around so you can see it. So over and through the frame, like so, until it stays securely on. And I want to do that at least 2 or 3 times. Until the bundle is secure onto the frame. Okay, so here's what it looks like. Okay, so as you can see some of the wire exposed on this edge here, and we see stem here. So our goal with the next bundle of flowers is to hide that wire and to hide the stems. So I'm going to grab another bundle, and this time I'm going to grab a slightly bigger bundle than the one I started with. You want to have enough, again, to cover that wire and the stems from the previous bundle. So that first bundle I started with was approximately 6 stems, and this one I'm going to go to about 10 stems. So here we are, and again I'm going to cut it shorter. Okay, like so. with that, so there's the first bundle. I'm going to place it on top like so. So now you can see that that wire that was on the edge is hidden. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap my wire around that bundle to attach it onto the frame. And I will be doing that 2 to 3 times. Okay. There we are. There it is. And here's the back. Okay, and at this point, you'll notice that I have pretty long stems here. It does not need to be this long, so I'm gonna start cutting these a little bit shorter. Just makes it easier to handle, otherwise it gets very bulky as you keep adding more and more bundles and stems. Okay, so there it is. Show you again. There, that's how it looks. Okay, at this point, so this is just my second bundle, you see that again we have a little bit of wire showing on this edge. So our goal with the next bundle will be to cover that. So grab another handful of bundle of lavender. And as you can see, lavender is actually very easy to work with. They're straight stems, they're not too brittle. They do shed a little bit of some of the blossoms, but that's okay. It smells amazing. Yes, it's one of my favorite dry flowers to use. It's just very beautiful and lasts a really long time as well. Okay, so same process as before. Okay, so as you can see, every time I put the wreath down, the wire kind of loosened a little bit. So you want to always pull it pretty taut. So we're going to place this on top of the previous bundle, and as we place it on top, you'll see that I'm moving down the wreath, right? So I'm moving about an inch or so further down the wreath. So I'm not staying to the same exact spot as I was as I am placing more bundles on top. I'm inching my way down or across the wreath all the way to the other side. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this. Okay, so, sorry. And I'm going to do another wrap just to make sure that it's tightly attached. Okay, so here we are. Okay. And as you can see, the flowers are sticking out to the side here, and that's part of the beauty of it. It has a very natural flair to it, and it adds to the width of the wreath as you're done. But if you don't like that look, you can always shorten the stems even more, or push down the little stems, and it would stick out less. But I like it kind of sticking out and looking wild and unruly. Okay, so I'm going to work through the next bundle. Okay, I've added several more bundles. As you can see, it's going further along now, and I'm getting close to finishing the wreath. And just like before, I was just layering one bundle on top of each other and moving down the wreath an inch at a time. And with each bundle, I try to cover as much as possible the stems from the previous bundle and covering the wire that was peeking through. So to see my progress, here we are. It's looking really nice with the stems coming out to the side there. Okay, and here's kind of my goal of where I want it to look like. I want it to end about here, so maybe a couple more bundles to here. Okay, and then I'll be wrapping a ribbon here to cover the stem. Okay, another method, and I wanted to speak to this briefly because Sometimes people prefer to make their bundles first instead of doing it as you're working on the wreath. So as I was showing you, I was pulling my bundles together with these long stems, and then I cut them, and then I add them to the wreath one at a time as I'm working on it. But what you could always do as well is to create your shorter bundles first and have them just ready and already cut short and counted out and placed around your table, so that as you're wrapping the wreath, you can just pick it up and put it on and not have to handle multiple things and cut at the same time. So that's always available to you if that's something you prefer to do or prefer to work. I like to cut as I go because it kind of gives me a little bit of creative room in case I want longer stems or I want to bunch them slightly different. It's a method that I'm used to working with, especially when I'm using different types of flowers, because each flower has different stem length and different ways that I want to place it on the wreath, and I don't always want them to be uniform. But with lavender, because it's just one type of flower and the stems tend to be very uniform, it's pretty easy to pre-make your bundle first and have everything ready to go before you start. So here I am, I'm getting close to finishing, and I'm going to continue to place my bundles until we get to the to my point of where I think the end should be. And at this point, I'm making smaller bundles of this is about 6 stems, and because I don't need quite as much to cover the base of the frame or the wire, as you can see, because there's already a lot of flowers on there from the previous bundles I created. Okay, so you can see what I mean about the stems being slightly different. This one has a bit of a curve to it, right? So in pre-making the bundles, you'll see that they lay differently in different ways. So if you want to, you can always move these stems around and manipulate them so that they go in the direction that you want them to. Okay. Kind of want it to lay that way. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to continue on here. Just another bundle I've already made, adding it on. Okay, so you can see the back here and where I've been wrapping my wreath. There you go. And here's the front. Okay. Placing the next bundle. Okay, and here you can see one of the things you'll notice is the wreath tend to move in this direction, that as you wrap, it would cover this end but then expose this end. So the inner and outer, it has a movement towards it, in which you tend to alternate. So you might cover this side, but then the next bunch, you're covering the outer side. So right now I'm going to cover that inner part of the wreath. Okay, don't forget to keep pulling your wire pretty taut. Okay, there we go. So as I mentioned before, I covered the inner side, but now you can see that the outer part of the wreath is exposed. So my next bunch will lay like that. Okay. Yeah. So you always want to be looking back at your wreath and making sure that the wire is being covered. Again, shorten the stems as you go. Makes it a little bit easier to wrap the wire without all these stems sticking out. okay. It's getting very close to where I want to finish. I think I'm gonna add just one more bundle, and then I will show you how to tie on the ribbon to cover the rest of the stems. Okay, last little bit here. Okay, so as we attach on that last bundle, we're gonna do a few extra wraps just to make sure it's pretty secure. Okay, and then you want a little extra length of wire, and I'm gonna cut that wire with some wire cutter. Okay, so about that much length. And what I like to do is turn the wreath around, and I'm going to kind of weave this wire back onto the previous wrappings that I've made so that it stays pretty tightly on. You know, think of it like a thread that you're wanting to knot together with the previous threads so it doesn't come loose. Okay, so as you can see, I've wrapped it around that bunch of wire. Okay, and then you can just snip it off to make it shorter once you feel that it's very secure. Okay, I'll cut the rest of that end up, and make sure you tuck the tip of the wire into the frame so that it doesn't poke your hands. Okay, here we are. There's the complete wreath, and let's shorten the stem. Okay, there it is. Okay, at this point, you know, there's this wire showing here and a little bit of stem. So aesthetically, you could choose to leave a little bit of stem there so it looks nice, or you can cut it shorter and hide it completely. That's totally up to you as an artist. I like it to be exposed a little bit. It kind of has a nice natural vibe to it, so I'm going to keep that there. But I am going to just clean up a little bit so they're even. Okay, now we're gonna take our raffia ribbon. There we are. Okay, here's the ribbon. And you want to make sure it's kind of straightened and about the same length. Okay, and I'm just gonna wrap it on and tie a ribbon around where the wire is showing to hide it. Okay, there we go. I'm just making a knot right now. There we go. Nice thing about raffia is it's nice and big, so it's covering that wire nicely. Okay, so you could just do a double knot if you want, or you could do, for me I like a bow, so I'm going to make a little bow. Oops, just dropped my fingers. All right, there we go. There's the little bow. Okay, open it up, and there we are. That is a finished wreath. That's pretty darling, so cute. As far as hanging it, again, this is up to you where you think is the top of the wreath, where is the bottom. For me, this is probably the top. So I decide, you know, okay, this is probably where I want to hang it. So you attach a little string to the back of the wreath. And I like using twine, just a nice natural color that will hide. And loop it through the frame, like so. And then like that. And then you just do a little knot. I'm going to do a double knot here. There we are. And it is complete. It's ready to be hung up on your door or on your wall.